Oh no, I'll turn it off.
All right, welcome along tonight, Annie. I know there are a couple of other people that wanted to join in today for basically a bit of a summary about how to adjust training plans and training programs, particularly on the fly when your week uh, evolves in real world and means that your training has to take a back priority to more important life events. So without further ado, I've basically got some background information before we get into those rules. The first one is that you're not going to the Olympics, not yet anyway. I do coach a number of athletes that qualify for some pretty high level events, such as Ironman and Kona or Nice for the men this year, opposite way around next year, or World Age Group Champs. And the people I work with have got real lives. They have got jobs, they've got study commitments, they've got family commitments. A lot of them volunteer with organisations for both sport and their children's activities. So other things do get in the way, and it's all about managing and manipulating things so you get the best physical result based on the change in circumstances. So I plan the training plan in an optimal layout for the week. Optimal in terms of physiological, sports science, periodization type methodology, but that doesn't always align and mesh very well with people's lives and the situations that develop. And all those things I discussed before can get in the way of those training commitments, and they are more important than some pretty basic fitness stuff. So it's all about optimizing that. So my rules are there, 5 of them. Done is better than perfect. What I mean, I'll cover all these in a bit more detail shortly, but getting out and doing some training is better than doing it perfectly as planned. If you miss a session, it's missed. Don't worry about trying to catch it up and condense everything into the later stage of the week. That's just going to give you more training stress, more things to try and recover from, and as a result of doing that training, less time to recover from it. If you don't have time to fit a workout in completely, swap like sessions for another similar one. So swap hard sessions for hard sessions, swap long sessions for long sessions, etc. Number 4 is do a reduced session. So maybe reduce the length of it by shortening it, maybe cut out some of the intensity, but not all of the intensity. And I'll discuss some options shortly for that. And the final one there is consistency is the key. If you are consistent with your training, you will get results. So done is better than perfect. It's more important to get some form of training done than it is to have the perfect week. Like I said, I try and plan the optimal week for you, but due to the interference of some of those other commitments, that perfect week can't be executed. So we're going to have to do something that is going to be better than doing nothing. If you miss a session, it's gone. And we don't want to get into the position where we're just condensing all the training into 2 or 3 days because you've missed the first few days at the start of the week. The training that you do, you've got to recover from that to get the benefit of it. If you don't recover from that training, you're not going to get the physiological benefit and improvement as a result of it. So recovery is the single most important aspect of training, and trying to cram a whole lot of training into your weekend to catch up from missed sessions earlier in the week is going to be a recipe for disaster in that respect. So if you try and put more and more training into less days, your recovery is going to be compromised and you're not going to get the opportunity to improve. I wrote a good article about this over 7 years ago now. It's one I often refer back to, and it's called What Mick Learned by Not Sticking to the Program. Now, Mick is a made-up name to protect the guilty, and I touched on Mick a few coaching calls ago. But if you just go to coachray.nz and search for Mick, there's quite a long article there and showing how that actually impacted on his training, with some comments from him as well. So that's one to go check out and have a look at. Swapping like for like, that you've got time to fit it in. And a couple of examples there. I'll start with the bottom one because that's the more common one. If you've got, say there's a 3-hour long bike ride planned for this given day, but you don't have 3 hours to fit that whole scheduled workout in, but you can fit it in later on in the week, and you've got time to do a long run on that day, swap those two aerobic conditioning sessions for each other, and do the shorter workout, which is the long run, and save that longer bike for later on in the week. Another example there is due to travel commitments or just where you're going to be with other commitments, the pool isn't so handy to get to on that particular day. So instead of doing the hard swim session that's been planned, do a hard run that's scheduled for later in the week, and go for a swim on that day that the hard run was planned. One thing we do want to avoid is having back-to-back sessions that are very similar. So if this hard swim was scheduled for the day before your long run, we probably don't want to be doing, not probably, we definitely don't want to be doing a hard run the day before it. So maybe look at doing cycle intervals that day. But if there's a cycle the following day, then that would fit perfectly in that scenario. The next option is to do a reduced session. When your intervals might have a hypothetical workout there of 8 by 4 minute intervals with a 4 minute rest interval in between them, and starting with a 10-minute warm up with a 10-minute cool down, it adds up to quite a long workout, being an hour 24. But you've only got an hour to squeeze a workout in. One of the things you can do is do those first 5 reps, have the full recovery between them as needed, and then just miss the final 3 reps, and that whole workout can be condensed into a 60-minute time slot. Key thing is you're training the same energy system within that workout, and you're training it within the time available. So you're getting something done, targeting the specific energy system and mode or sport for that given day. And the last one, as I touched on, consistency is always the key. You'll get out of your training what you put into it, and you're a lot better off doing 30 minutes every day for a week rather than trying to cram a couple of longer sessions in over the weekend. It all adds up to the same volume of training per week, but with it being condensed into a couple of days, come the Monday morning, you're going to be pretty tired, fatigued, and going to need recovery. And then you've got 5 days of no training getting done, meaning that you're getting 5 days of detraining. So you're better off getting a little bit done quite frequently in terms of doing something every day. You'll be in a lot better position compared to someone that only does 2 days of training in the week. So in summary, the 5 options there: doing something is better than nothing. Don't try and catch for missed sessions. Just put them behind you, leave them there. Don't stress about them. Just focus on moving forward. Swap similar sessions for similar sessions, either sticking with the same discipline or the same energy system. Decrease your volume. Cut out a few reps to reduce the session into the time frame that you do have available. And finally, be consistent with your training. Any questions there, Annie?
If you have to drop something, say you've got a squeeze on, and you got your 3 disciplines, is there one thing that's better to drop, or it makes no difference? It's more around the intensity of the session. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm never a fan of dropping anything totally, but I realise that real life sneaks into it. That is going to depend on a case-by-case circumstances. If a common example, and I know this doesn't necessarily apply for you, the people that are not necessarily strong swimmers or are weak swimmers they often have a phobia or a mental block around swimming. So that's the one most likely to be ditched because and often swimming does end up in the too hard basket because there's a lot of other things. You need to get to the swimming pool. You need to have lane space availability, fighting, but conflicting pool bookings and public availability for lap swimming is often reduced, particularly during school holidays and other times where there's a higher demand for pool use. So swimming can often be ditched from someone's training just because it's easier not to do it than it sometimes is to make the commitment to go and do it at a time where it's the availability is higher. And that's more mentally for people that are less strong or a swimmer compared to they are cycling and running. That's an easier decision for them to make. But it's actually one of the worst decisions for them to make because now they're ignoring their weakness in triathlon. And so it makes their weakest discipline weaker relative to their cycling and running, which is one thing we're trying to avoid. If you're training for a longer event, the key workouts each week, and if we use a long triathlon as an example, the key workouts are going to be the long bike, the long run, and the longer of the swims. So dropping those is always going to be a poor choice. But particularly early in a build-up, if there's intervals, then they're often the best session to drop. So you're getting the benefit of that aerobic development from those longer workouts. Having said that, those intervals are often a very effective way of developing aerobic fitness in a short space of time. So once again, I'm not a fan of having those workouts dropped for that reason. So short, there is no short answer actually. It's always going to be on a case-by-case situation, depending on the athlete's abilities, where their strengths and areas to improve lie, what they're training for, and what part or what phase of the build-up. So there is never an easy answer when it comes to which session should you drop. But yeah, none is the answer, but reality is sometimes that's going to need to happen.
That's really helpful. I think I often try to catch up missed sessions.
Yep.
But then I never do, and then it just causes me a load of stress. And then so it's quite good
Yeah.
to think, oh yeah, just let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, just accept the fact. As soon as you mentally accept it, and it's like, right, I've missed Tuesdays, whatever. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm going to have a good sleep, get up and go do whatever it is straight away, get it done and dusted. And that way you don't have other commitments hanging over you during the day going, oh, the boss is really onto me. I need to get this done. I need to stay late, get this sorted. I need to, and then that training takes a back seat. So, yeah. Any other questions sprung up?
No, I don't think so. It's just, I suppose, I'm just new to all of this. So for me, it's just trying to get my head around like the program, and I still feel like there's quite a lot for me to learn about all the physiological adaptation. Because I guess coming from swimming, I just think like every session needs to be hard. So just trying to change my mindset into like having a gentler session is kind of quite new for me.
It's good because that leads into next fortnight's group coaching call. I'm going to be talking about training intensities and why it's important that we target the correct training intensities. So that's interesting that you raised that question. I was going to do that for tonight, targeting a couple of people in particular. One of them wasn't you. But but this was asked for by one of the other athletes. So I thought I'd get tonight's one done because it's very fitting in their world at the moment. And she'll watch this later on, I'm sure, as soon as the link goes out. And if questions do come up after the fact, either for you, Annie, or anyone that's watching this in the future, if they're part of the Qwik Kiwi tribe team or elite packages, then jump into the VIP Facebook group, ask the questions in there. If you're watching this on YouTube and not part of the Qwik Kiwi squad, feel free to add your questions below. I will get round to answering them. I sometimes miss the notifications coming through. So, awesome.